Every year, Open Studios Notts showcases the work of hundreds of artists around Nottinghamshire. Whilst unfortunately the current situation means that artists are unable to physically open their studio doors, you're still able to enjoy an experience virtually at home or in your garden like me. I've been speaking to some local makers and artists, and here's Sue Morton, a potter from Upton.
My name's Sue Morton, and I think you could describe me as a potter. I have been potting for nearly 20 years now, and I started by going to adult education classes when we lived in Chichester. But 9 years ago, we came to live in this area, Upton, near Southwell, and I think things have gone from strength to strength in terms of my potting, simply because Michael and Susan live across the road, and Michael, of course, organises open studios, and I started taking part in open studios. And with that leads to other things like joining the Wood Firing Society at Thoresby, and going to various courses, and I just keep going now.
That's brilliant. So you're a very busy lady then.
Well, yes, I should be busier, but I, with all the other things that go on in a household, it's not as, I don't do as much potting as I would like, in fact, yes.
Yeah, and that brings us to the question of, how did you become a potter?
How did I become a potter? Well, it was speaking to a friend that really got me into going to this adult education class, and she happened to say that there was a very nice teacher, and I thought, I might have a go. Obviously, I'd bought pots in the past, and my husband has a sister who lives in the Lake District, and she always used to take us to galleries and so on, and I suppose that's where I became interested in pots, really. I suppose I'm quite a practical person, so using my hands was second nature, I think, for me. And my first day at my pottery class was wonderful. I took to it like a duck to water. Yes, it's had its ups and downs. I need a push every now and then to get going, but especially at this time of year when there are events like the Open Studios on, of course that energizes you and makes you get on with it. Yeah, I've got lots to learn, and I think ceramics is something that there's no end to learning, in fact. I suppose a lot of the very good potters know a lot, but I'm sure even those potters have things to learn. There's so many things: the glazing, the creating of the pots, there's the throwing, there's hand building, there's the firing of the pots in terms of using an electric kiln, gas kiln, wood-fired kiln, etc., etc. There's just so much you can get involved in.
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot to it. So what sort of equipment did you need then when you first started with your pottery making?
In the beginning, people say that the most important thing to have is a kiln, because you can hand build without a wheel, and so a lot of work can be done hand building, so you don't have to spend out money buying a wheel to begin with, although a lot of people actually like to have a wheel because they think that's what pottery is. But I was lucky enough to get a second-hand wheel, and so it didn't cost me the earth. And so you don't have to buy everything at once. If you want to get a certain type of clay for doing a certain type of pot, then you buy that, but you don't have to buy everything at once. And the same with the glazing. If you want to make a glaze up, you buy the materials that are involved in that glaze. but gradually you build up a good stock of this, that and the other.
Oh, lovely. And what kind of pots do you make then?
All kinds of pots, really. I mean, that's a stupid thing to say, but I do throw in the wheel, so that involves making domestic typeware, i.e. mugs, bowls, cylinders and things like that. But I also make bird baths.
Oh, lovely.
And that involves all kinds of work in terms of slab building, coiling, and throwing. So my bird baths are made up of all three kinds of creating pots. Yeah.
Wow, a lot goes into it then.
I love it. You know, it really embraces you, and your mind is taken over by just doing what you're doing, and it's well, it's creative. I suppose a lot of subjects, even just painting, it takes you away from what's happening now, and so on. Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I hope the birds appreciate how much work goes into their bird baths.
Well, they have at the moment, because I've actually had all the ones that I've got for sale outside, and they've been all there together, all had water in them, and the pigeons don't know which one to choose. It's quite funny watching them.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's lovely. So, if you want to get hold of a pot or indeed a bird bath, where and how do you sell them?
There again, I'm not very good about selling because I take part in open studios. Word of mouth. I've just sold a bird bath to somebody whose niece bought one 2 years ago. Ceramics in Southwell, which takes place in August, end of August, which I'm very much involved in the running of, is another place where I sell pots. I have sold at the gallery up in Cumbria, but I need to do more in that sphere, but I'm not very good at it.
How would you encourage people, or would you encourage people to take up pottery as you have, especially maybe at this time when people have got more time on their hands? Would you say, yeah, get yourself a wheel, get yourself a kiln and give it a go?
Definitely. As I've said, you don't need everything at once. Just buying a bag of clay is a start, and playing around with clay, because that's how they teach you in the beginning. They make you produce a pinch pot, and that's just using your hands and a piece of clay to produce a shape. And some potters are excellent at just doing that without any other fancy gizmos to produce the pot. So that was what I initially say to people. And then after that, if they want to carry on, then look for either a class somewhere. In this area, there are classes in Newark and Lincoln, but they're fairly few and far between. But you do find a lot of potters themselves do take small groups of people. So keep trying, looking for somewhere where you can find and progress your potting.
And how will you be keeping busy then over the next few months as we go through? What's sort of your plans for the future?
Well, because I'm a member of the Sherwood Forest Wood Firing Society, and it's been closed down, we're always producing work for that, because you never know when the next firing is going to be. And of course, there hasn't been one for a while, and we desperately need to be able to go there and fire it. So that's one way where you need to keep going. And also there's Ceramics in Southwell, which happens on the 31st of August, bank holiday weekend. We don't know quite yet whether it's going to take part or not, but hopefully it will, you know, being at the end of August. We're just hoping that that will take place, so that'll keep me busy as well.
A big thank you to Sue for taking the time to talk to me. You can find more information, including a virtual studio tour of Sue's studio, at osnots.co.uk.